Hi, welcome to Creative Soul Life. This is episode 8, When Being Bad is Good. And no, we're not jumping back to Gen X 80s slang here. I'm talking about creating bad art. And when I say art, I mean anything that you do that is creative, whether it's actual painting and visual arts, the music arts, culinary arts, needlework, seamstress, anything that you create, writing, it's all art. So when I say art, it's what you create and your creativity in your life. So let's talk about why I want you to do it badly. So we're all familiar with learning something new and expecting it to be bad. For myself, that's music. I can't even read music. I took lessons as a child, but I haven't done anything with it in decades. If I was to pick up a flute or a guitar or something, I would expect to be bad. Like I said, I can't even read music. I would stumble through. I would make a lot of mistakes. It would be questionable as to whether what I'm producing is music or not. It's okay. My expectations are low. I am expecting myself to make bad art. But what happens when it's not something new? What if it's your livelihood? What if it's something you've been doing most of your life? You are practice at it. You possibly even teach it. Again, maybe you make money from it. If it's something that's integral to you and what you create, why is it still important to do it badly or to make bad art? I think, and many other creative professionals think, you can't get good without the bad. So, what are some of the reasons you might be making bad art? First, it's your warm-up or your practice. Jennifer Egan, who wrote Why We Write, 20 acclaimed authors on how and why they do what they do, says, you can only write regularly if you're willing to write badly. You can't write regularly and well. One should accept bad writing as a way of priming the pump, a warm-up exercise that allows you to write well. You're getting it ready. You're getting yourself started. You're getting going. It gets you warmed up. Seth Godin on his blog wrote, The Simple Cure for Writer's Block. Write. People with writer's block don't have a problem typing. They have a problem living with bad writing, imperfect writing, of writing something that might expose something they fear. The best way to address this isn't to wait to be perfect, because if you wait, you'll never get there. The best way to deal with it is to write, and that realizing that your bad writing isn't fatal. Like all skills, we improve with practice and feedback. Going back to that new skill, you expect that you would need to practice to get good at it. The same is still true when you already have achieved some level of mastery at something. You still need to practice and make bad art to make better art and to get even better at it. And part of that practice helps you to learn and grow and evolve with that creative skill. Anne Lamott writes in Bird by Bird some instructions on writing and life. Perfectionism is a mean, frozen form of idealism, while messes are the artist's true friend. What people somehow, inadvertently I'm sure, forgot to mention when we were children was that we need to make messes in order to find out who we are and why we are here, and by extension, what we're supposed to be writing. So she's basically saying you've got to do the bad to learn what is good, to learn what you're capable of. You need that to grow and explore. If you rely on your creative skills professionally, then you have at some point experienced writer's block or blank canvas syndrome, where the start of something new or the possibility of trying to do something new, you're just blocked. You don't feel like you can come up with something. This is where bad art helps you get over that, giving yourself permission to just create something bad. Get it out of the way, get it out of your system, and it will prime that pump and to get you going. Austin Kleon in Keep Going references a letter that Saul Lewitt wrote to Eva Hess. You must practice being stupid, dumb, unthinking, empty. Then you will be able to do. Try doing some bad work, the worst you can think of, and see what happens, but mainly relax and let everything go to hell. You're not responsible for the world. You are only responsible for your work. Do it. So the best way to get over that blankness, that block, that fear, is to realize bad is okay. Just do it. Doing it is so much more important than the quality of what you're doing. Just getting it done. And in fact, once you get going and once you're creating, the only way to get better is to create. And in that act, you will create bad. And it's okay. You need that to get to good. There's a famous story. It's been retold in a couple of books, but the actual story is true, and it's attributed to Jerry Uselman. And he used this to motivate his beginning photography students. So on the first day of class, he separated them into two groups. One group was the quantity group. They were told their grade depended on how many photographs they took. They took 100 photographs, they got an A. 90 photographs was a B, and so on. The second group was the quality group. They only had to create one photograph, but it had to be perfect. So the whole semester went on. One group was frantically working and creating lots and lots of photographs. The second group did lots of talking and planning and trying to figure out the perfect photograph and analyzing it and going over all types of things to make that perfect photograph. Well, at the end of the year, I think you know where I'm going with this, which group had the better photographs. The quantity group, through practice, trial and error, actual real world tweaking of lighting, not just talking about it, not just theorizing about it, but actually doing the work, getting it done, getting the mistakes out of the way, produce much higher quality photography than the group who just sat around thinking about it, talking about it, planning about it, trying to figure out what made it perfect. So kind of the moral of the story is you can't think your way to better. You can't theorize your way to better. You can't dream your way to better. You can only do it. And in the practice of that doing, there will be bad art. And it's okay. In fact, I dare say challenge yourself to make it, knowing that the more bad you make, the more good that's going to come after it. The more you're learning, the more you're developing and growing from that bad, the good has to follow. It's just almost that law of averages or numbers. The more you do something, the better it's going to be and the better it's going to get. And sometimes your bad art is just a part of your process. For me, that's my sketchbooks. I don't have these beautiful curated sketchbooks like you see on Instagram or something. Nobody's going to take my sketchbooks after I die and just rip out pages and put them in a museum. I know how to draw, and if I sit down and do a drawing, if I'm working on a drawing, that's very different than my sketchbooks. My sketchbooks are where I work out my ideas, where I work out my compositions, where I grab color pencils and see how two colors look next to each other. They're very quick. They're very hurried. In fact, I would dare say if you look through them half the time, you might not even be able to tell what it is I'm doing on the piece of paper, because in my brain, I'm working out these ideas. I'm working out the composition of what's this and here. I'll use it to warm up my hands. If I haven't been drawing in a while, I'll use it to kind of warm up and sketch and do things. And some of them are beyond bad. They're terrible. And in fact, I'll write on there, need to draw more. This looks terrible. It's okay. Doesn't bother me. I know that's what I need to do, and this is part of my process. And no, I have completed hundreds of sketchbooks. I don't keep them all because I know it's not relevant to a lot of my work. It has my thinking process, my developing in there, but I'm the only one can read that story. Nobody could look at the sketchbook and see the story of my development through there. It's just part of my process. So when I fill up a sketchbook, I'll go back through it. I may pull 2 or 3 actual drawings out of it. The rest of it gets thrown away because it's part of my process, part of my warm-up. Now, what about actual That's part of my process. What about actual bad art? What do you do with that? What do you do when you create something and you feel like this is bad, or you write something and this is bad? Well, first, kudos for doing it, because that's the first step, doing it. Second, step away from it. Give yourself some time. Come back to it, much like a rough draft of writing or something. It may be fixable. It may not be as bad as you think. There may be tweaks you can do. You may, by stepping away and giving yourself some space and away from that frustration when you're trying to do something and it's not coming out how you picture or how you want it, stepping back and giving yourself some time and focus, you can see it with fresh eyes. You can see, oh, I was trying to go there, I went here, I can fix that. And then you can tweak it, fix it, edit it, recompose it, whatever you need to do. Now, what if you come back and it's still garbage? It's still not what you want, not what your brain was trying to get your hands to do, your mouth to do, whatever. Move on. Set it aside for a very long time. Take what you learned, move on to the next thing, put it away. First, down the road, when you're not being so critical and you're not caught up in that moment of frustration, you may find it's better than you think. Or parts and pieces are better than you think. A lot of my collages are created from paintings I've done, and I did not like the composition as a whole, but there's one particular part that I love. One piece of where the paint hit the paper and the lighting's just right, and I'll tear that up and use that in a collage and throw the rest of it away. So if you can't fix it when you come back to it initially, set it aside for a long amount of time and come back to it and see if it can be used, reused, repurposed. If it's better than you think, then you need to just keep it as is. But if all that fails, you've set it aside, you pulled it out, it still makes you cringe. You still don't like it. You still just, it's not a reflection of you, your skills, your talents. Get rid of it. Destroy it. It took years for me to learn this, that it was okay to destroy art. Part of this I'll put on my husband. He always told me, you might not like it, but somebody else might. And it wasn't until I read a biography of Georgia O'Keeffe, and she was very, very protective of her art and very protective on selling it, giving it to someone. She had to really feel like she was proud of it and you would appreciate it. I am completely paraphrasing. This is how I read into it. And she wasn't afraid of destroying something if it was not reflective of what she was trying to say or how she felt. And that was sort of freeing to me. I realized that, yes, something I created might have been good, or maybe somebody look at it and I don't see anything wrong with it. But whatever it was bothered me so much that I didn't want it existing anymore. So finally, I think it was about 6 or 7 years ago that I did this first. And I'm talking about completed artworks, not things that you start and you don't finish it and you set aside. Those are easy to paint over. These are completed artworks. A lot of times they were in my art shows, art booths, or even posted online for sale. But I just did not feel good looking at them. I did not feel good about them being out there as part of my art that I was presenting to the world. So I threw it away. I still have photographic records of them. I'm kind of meticulous on that. But actually photographs, ripped them up, tearing them up, destroying them. I scissored up some canvases and it felt good. It felt like I was kind of like shedding some skin. And part of getting rid of some of that, I'm leaving part of that growing experience, the painful part of the growing experience behind. So if you've done that, you've created things, you look back and you've created it, it's not fixable, there's not some piece of it that's salvageable, you can't reuse it to something else, give yourself permission to destroy it. Get rid of it. Get it out of your psyche. Get it done. Burn it. Have a party. Do what you need to do and move on. So I'd like to ask you, what is your bad art? How do you make yourself do it? What do you do with it? I'd love for you to share. If you're watching on YouTube, put it down in the comments. If you're listening on a podcast, you can leave notes or even email and share with me, how do you practice bad art? And then what do you do with it? But above all else, don't let bad art stand in the way of doing what you do best, and that's creating. So go be creative and feed your soul. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and follow, and take a look back at some of my other episodes. Thank you.